Hello, welcome to a Jack and Jack show brought to you by Green King Sport. Jack Stroudley, how are you doing?
Very well, mate. Very well. Good to be back. It's a shame it's the departure of Joe Sanson, but happy to fill in as always.
Yes, Joe celebrating his birthday this week and he's in Paris celebrating it. So hopefully he's having a nice time. And before we get started, of course, Green King Sport, there's no Premier League football this weekend. But if you want to head to a Green King pub to watch some Premier League action for the next round of fixtures, you've got a plethora of options. Wolves, Liverpool in the early kickoff on TNT Sports. The late kickoff, Newcastle hosting Brentford on Sky Sports. The Super Sunday is Bournemouth against Chelsea and Everton against Arsenal. And the Monday night football, Nottingham Forest against Burnley, who very recently played each other in the Carabao Cup. And Burnley won by 1-0. Fulham were drawn against Norwich for the next round, which will be interesting, Jack. But let's talk about Manchester City away. 5-1 defeat. I was out the ground by 4-1. And Fulham were shafted for the fourth game running in all comps.
Yeah, incredibly frustrating. I think in terms of the game, start in the first half. I thought, similarly to Arsenal, I thought Fulham were very good value in that first half. And, when Alvarez scored, it felt like, although Fulham won the game, there was, a sense of kind of inevitability. They're always going to take chances. But then we reacted really well. Raul Jimenez getting on the end of a corner and with a good strike, to be fair to him. Tim Ream was the first to react. And as the first half's going on, I'm thinking, it's getting to half time at 1-1. And then, more often than not, City might come out and dominate, but at least you're in the break 1-0. And then, I'm sure I don't need to tell everyone what happened for the second goal. Obviously, Manuel Akanji standing in an offside position, interfering with play. And at that point, it's really frustrating because, as I say, if Fulham going at 1-0, it's a completely different mindset to at 2-1. At 2-1, you've got to come out a little bit and try and chase the game, which ultimately, maybe is the reason why City went on to dominate and win 5-1.
I felt like maybe that decision that went against us sort of knocked the stuffing out of the team because, we limited City to almost nothing in the first half an hour. Then once they did score, we responded. And then again, the VAR letting us down, admitted that they let us down by the on the mic'd up program we saw last night, or maybe even the night before, with Howard Webb and Michael Owen. It's just so frustrating because if we went in at half time, you never know where the game could go from there. Interesting to see that the goal we scored with Paulinho scored at Arsenal was almost exactly the same as to the way that Raul Jimenez sort of hit the ball from the corner, and it was a great save from Edison, and then Ream gets the rebound. So that's obviously something we've worked on from the training ground. Not the first time we've done that under Marco Silva when it comes to corner kicks or set pieces. I don't think we could just sit here for 25 minutes just talking about Manchester City away. I think it's pretty self-explanatory what happened. 2-1 down at the break. Their quality showed through Erling Haaland, who's obviously scored the hat-trick. And I'm still not thinking that was a penalty, by the way. I thought that was...
No. Yeah, it's very, very soft. And it's not the first time that Issa Diop's had a penalty given against him where, it was a pretty soft
Liverpool,
decision. Yeah. Liverpool, And yeah, it just feels, I don't want to sit here and talk about, bias and this, that, and the other, but it certainly does feel like over the last few weeks, Fulham certainly have been unlucky in practically every game, to be honest with you. Obviously, we had the decision against two really good arguments against Manchester City. Arsenal, when Bassi potentially was fouled and then Nketiah scored, I think, for Arsenal. Obviously, there was the whole Tete boot situation at against Tottenham, which is something I've never really seen before. And although we were second best throughout the game, the penalty for Brentford in that 3-0 defeat was frustrating as well. So I'm not surprised that Marco Silva continuously gets booked and continuously seems to be criticising the officials, because I'd make him right, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, he certainly isn't happy with the way things have operated from an officiating point of view this season. There's been inconsistencies. There's been changing of the rules, which has sort of made it muddy the waters as to what you can and cannot do on the pitch and off the pitch. And it's just been, for Fulham, a bit of a mess. I think we're probably one of the only teams in the division that's really been hampered by the officiating after last season, where we fairly got away with quite a lot of things. Actually, a lot of things went in our favour, unless I'm completely missing something. I mean, 3 red cards in 90 seconds wasn't ideal, but that was in the FA Cup. And in terms of the Premier League, we actually were okay. I don't seem to remember too many instances. Of course, the Diop penalty against Liverpool was never really a penalty, but so far this season, it does feel like the world's against us. But a lot of clubs feel like that when just one decision goes against them. But we've had 4. Last time we spoke was deadline day, and we signed Alex Iwobi about 1:20 in the morning, and then Ballo-Touré, which wasn't even mentioned on the stream. The deal sheet came in, and he was signed completely out of nowhere as someone we were linked with over early in the summer. Another fullback option that Marco Silva wanted. It wasn't the deadline day we wanted, but certainly, 2's better than none, Jack. And Alex Iwobi, a very capable player at the level as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we spoke about Alex Iwobi on deadline day. I'll go back to it. I think that Alex Iwobi is a very typical Marco Silva player. He's versatile and can play numerous positions. He's probably stronger in the middle of the park. I'm slowly warming to the signing. On deadline day, I remember, banging the drum. I think 22 million is a bit steep. And while I still think that is, I do think he is a decent player. And I think he's a player who Fulham can use. And then in terms of Ballo-Touré, I'm not going to sit here and pretend I know loads about him. I think he was out of favour in Milan, and we were trying to force a move earlier in the summer, and he was very indecisive about it and decided to go against Fulham. So the fact that we've come back in for him on deadline day surprises me. But Fulham love a last minute Hail Mary. And as you mentioned, we need options. We only had Tete Robinson and Castagna, so bringing in that 4th option, Ballo-Touré, so you've now got 2 either side, especially as a loan. I think that's fine business, to be perfectly honest with you. Obviously, the big news of the day was that João Palhinha didn't go to Bayern Munich, but I think as a deadline day, we expected more, but I guess we're settling for it.
I think it speaks to just the planning, the fact that we were planning on getting 4 in on deadline day and only getting 2 in. Marco Silva highlighted it after the City game. We should have got things done way before deadline day, and it's something it just keeps happening at Fulham. For the past 2 seasons, we've been in a position where we've sort of known where we're going to be early on in the year, heading into the summer. And yet 2 summers in a row, we failed to get targets over the line in time, or just about in time, for either the season starting or the deadline. It's just frustrating. And and then the situation with Palhinha is not going to be easy now. We mentioned it on the stream, of course. He's with Portugal now, so he hasn't even, I don't know if he's been back at Motspur Park, but certainly things were very, on what day was it? Sunday, where his brother put out that Instagram post, which has now been deleted, and that stirred a few Fulham fans, and definitely myself. I was thinking, why do that? That's agent speaking over player, and it doesn't reflect well on him. It doesn't reflect well on Palhinha. It doesn't reflect well on Bayern Munich either. And Jack, it's a bit of a mess.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, as you've mentioned, it's a mess for everyone. I think it mainly speaks to Bayern Munich. I've seen a lot of people online criticising Fulham for not allowing the deal to go through. And Palhinha's agent/brother has, vented his frustrations at the club. But ultimately, that's down to Bayern Munich for leaving it to the 11th hour to get a deal over the line, and being surprised that Fulham don't want to let their most valuable asset go in the 11th hour without having a adequate replacement there. And as you mentioned, it doesn't look good on João. I know he's not the one who's posted it, but it's still an agent of his. it's going to be it's going to be a very tricky relationship to try and mend. I think personally, I hope that Polinia can kind of see it as maybe the move happens in January, so now I've got a few months to keep my stock as high as I can, and as long as if he gives everything in that Fulham shirt and he is responsible for us picking up as many points as possible between now and January, then I think that's a conversation that then we can start up again at the start of the month, and then hopefully, if he does go, find an adequate replacement.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't help when, a day or two after the window closes, Fabrizio Romano is still tweeting about Paulinho, and he's still saying that there's interest from Bayern Munich, and now there's interest from Manchester United as well. It's just like, it's infuriating. Just leave us alone for a few months and let us just sort of get on with football and stop trying to unsettle the club and the player, because, well, if you sat me down and asked me about my thoughts on Fabrizio Romano and his tactics behind tweeting, it will be an interesting opinion, I'm sure. But I was sort of taking comfort in Marco Silva's comments about Paulinho after the Man City game, saying it was a tough day for him, but he'll need the support of the club and myself and the fans. Sort of point to the fact that he will be integrated back in straight away, and he will sort of give his all, and won't let what happened last week deter from his season with Fulham. I don't necessarily want to be of the impression that he'll stay, but as soon as January hits, January the 1st, he's off to Munich again, having another medical or signing this shirt. I do think there's scope to keep him for the full season. But then again, I don't even want to talk about January now. I just want to get on with the football. I know it's the international break, and there's not much going on with Fulham right now, but Jack, it's been an unsettling summer, and it still isn't going away. Is really what my point is.
I think that's just the nature of the summer that Fulham had. I think it's a testament to the success that Fulham had last season as well.
Yeah,
with Silva, Paulinho, Mitrovic, and even Willian to an extent. All murmurings, will he, won't he? We've only lost one of those four, thankfully, albeit not replaced him, but that's a different subject. Mm-hmm. And I think you're right. I think we just need to now just get Paulinho back at Hotspur Park, get him playing football, get him enjoying football, and just see where the club is in January. Because if Fulham are having it was a rocky start. If Fulham are having a good start to the season, and maybe they've progressed in the Carabao Cup, and there's an opportunity to potentially win something. Because by January comes around, you're then in the latter stages of that tournament. Maybe Paulinho, might think, I might as well stick this around for a bit longer. Bear in mind, he's got a long time left on that contract, so he's in no real rush. I suppose the argument you could make is he's coming into late 20s now, and when a club like Bayern Munich come around, it's quite difficult to turn that away, especially with the opportunity to win the Champions League. But yeah, it's been a really, really tricky few months, and I just want to get back to hopefully winning football matches.
And our next game, of course, against Luton, we'll speak more about that next week. Obviously, a huge game, one that we actually pinpointed before the season started and said, well, after this really tricky start, that is a game we have to win, because after that we've got Palace, and then we've got Chelsea,
then Sheffield United.
We have to really get minimum 4 points in those next two games. I think Palace away is going to be tough, given they've got off to a good start to the season, fairly good start to the season, getting their first home win on Sunday. But yeah, the Luton game is huge, and there isn't really that much to talk about. We've obviously still in the Carabao Cup as well. We play Norwich, as I said earlier, so there is an opportunity here. Fulham could get far in that tournament, given the way that the draw panned out last week or the week before. There is a chance there we could actually go far.
Absolutely. I mean, with the Carabao Cup, I can't remember the last time we made it past the fourth round, to be honest with you. We've lost at last. I think the furthest I remember us getting in recent history is we lost to Brentford in the COVID season. We lost like 3-0 away from home, I think.
Well, even that was like the third round, because we beat Sheffield Wednesday the round before.
Yeah, even there. So that's the point. Like we just don't get far in the Carabao Cup. But yeah, this is certainly giving us the opportunity to do so. You know, we've got fingers crossed. We've got our traditional Big Six draw out of the way and done now. We've got Norwich obviously in the next round, who are going to be a tricky opponent. And yeah, who knows? As you mentioned, a lot of teams have been drawn against each other in the Premier League. So a lot of the bigger clubs hopefully are going to be out. And you know, that gives Fulham a decent opportunity if we can get a couple, you know, assuming we get through Norwich, get a couple more home draws, you know, then you're really into those latter stages where, you know, anything can happen.
There's a chance. There's a chance. Obviously, it's beneficial that there's no extra time. It was also quite nice, you know, the other night when we drew to Spurs, albeit we probably should have won in 90 and just went straight to pens. Not that extra half an hour where we basically know no one's really going to give it their all because they're sort of trying to conserve energy for the weekend's games. So we'll see what happens with the Carabao Cup. Apart from that, Jack, I think we could probably just wrap it up. And when I say wrap it up, I don't mean go on for another 10 minutes. I actually mean let's call it a day.
Yeah, there's not an awful lot to talk about, to be perfectly honest with you. I mean, Luke Harris looked okay against City. That's probably, you know, the only other thing that's not been mentioned. I thought in that first half in particular, he looked really well. But the fact that he was even coming on, you know, I think that shows how thin we're looking. Obviously, it came out then, I think, the day later that Fulham rejected or like pulled away from a loan deal with Exeter on deadline day because we were so short of numbers, which must be frustrating for him because, you know, he wants to get minutes.
But then again, he's coming on at the Etihad.
Yeah, true. He's starting to sniff around the Welsh squad now, so he wants to maybe try and, you know, make a claim in a Welsh midfield that's gone pretty weak over the last few years. So, yeah, it must be frustrating for him.
Obviously, Jay Stansfield is scoring, you know, 2 goals in 2 for Birmingham City as well. He scored at the weekend against Millwall and scored in his debut against Plymouth, of course. And then finally, I mean, I was going to say you know what? I can't remember. So thanks so much for watching, Jack. So thanks so much for being here. It's been brief, but a good chat.
Yeah, cheers for having me on. Always happy to, you know, fill the void as and when.
Yes, I'm not sure when Joe is back from his actual holiday, but I'm sure he'll be back next week to preview Luton Town at home. I'm sure that holiday has given him a chance to sort of cool down from the latest goings on at Fulham. I certainly have had the time to sort of process it. And yeah, it's a difficult start to the season on and off the pitch, but we will look ahead to brighter things. Jack, thanks so much.
Cheers. Thank you, mate.
Take care, everyone, and we'll see you next week.